Boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Katie Hopkins. Katie, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm really well.
You're looking well.
Yeah, I'm
You're
doing
glowing.
really. Oh, bless you. Well, that might be the additional highlighter, but yeah, I'm really well. Probably the best in terms of health, like I've ever been. So it's good. Yeah, it's nice.
I know you've been very controversial over the years. Like you've never held back. The one thing I like about you, Katie, is you've never bent over. You've never played the victim. You've never says, even all the trolls, all the bullshit. You've still stood at the forefront. If you believe it, you says it. And people have obviously had their opinion. This is a society we're in now. But first and foremost, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. I just went over the road to hang out. I was going to ring you, so I was here. And they're like, oh, you're here for James, aren't you? And I was like, yes, I am. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's absolutely my pleasure. And actually, the reason, I guess, that I'm here is that a lot of people said, you should be on with James, you should be on with James. And that's why I guess you and I found each other in the end, is that a lot of my kind of supporters or anybody that listens to me were like, you should be on with James.
Lucky you.
I know, thanks to them for this.
Yeah. Before we get into everything though, I always like to go back to the start for my guests, get a bit of understanding about them, where you grew up and how it all began.
Well, nothing. Normal, vanilla. Convent school, taught by nuns. I mean, whoever thought that was a great idea, right? Oh, yeah. You're religious, you can teach. And as just a really normal kid with stay-at-home mum, dad, electrical engineer, go to school, come home, take your school uniform off because you had to look after the uniform because it was expensive. Tea on the table at 5 o'clock, no messing. What dad said went. No one argued with dad. And if you did, you got that it was a backhand dad could do. So you would whiz up the stairs, like fly up the stairs. If you made it past about stair 4, you would probably avoid dad's backhand. So my upbringing was super standard, super normal, straight to university, and then university to the army and straight through Sandhurst. So everything was really a straight line up until a certain point.
Was your dad in the army?
No,
just a very
not
strict
at all.
father?
Strict, council house, lots of brothers, tiny property, father died, boys, looking after themselves. So order, discipline, and this is the rule and no one argues, and you'll sit there till your tea's eaten. Stuff a lot of us knew, right? That was definitely my upbringing.
Did you think that affects you as well as a kid?
There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of rules a lot of the time. And I guess I've always had something a bit naughty that's just so I would rebel, I think, when I was young, just by doing things pretty easily. Like I got all A's or whatever. I'm not trying to be like, I did this, but like I did grade 8 violin, grade 8 piano by the time I was 14. Like I would win sports day, whatever. What I'm trying to say is I kind of rebelled by just showing that it was kind of easy, which was annoying for a lot of people, I think. But there were, even with the nuns, like rule crazy. I'm left-handed. The nuns, even in my era, and I'm not 65 that people think I am, I'm actually only 47, and they used to tie my left hand behind my back because it's not godly to write with your left hand. So I guess the point is there was a lot of rules, and then I went into the army in Sandhurst where there's even more rules. But there's always been this kind of maverick me inside that's like, yeah, sure, I'll take your rule and I'll beat what you've told me I have to do, and I'll prove to you it was easy. And that's kind of my mindset, I guess.
Yeah. What about university?
Yeah, I found it boring. It was 3 years. Who needs to be anywhere for 3 years?
What did you do?
Oh, God, economics. At the University of Exeter, which back in the day was supposed to be like one of the top 5. And just dullards and people, you're just like, how are you staying here for 3 years? After year 2, I was completely done. I'd already been away in Australia for a year, sort of gallivanting. And I just found it so constraining, but I just needed that bit of paper. So I stuck it, and the army were paying for me to be there. But university, I'm not a believer in at all. And my kids now have got 18, 17, 14. None of them at present want to go to university. And that is probably one of my biggest achievements to date, is that none of my kids want to go. And currently one of them moved out last week to be a farmhand on a farm and is living in a caravan on a farm. So I'm kind of proud of that.
It's mad that you'd have probably thought your kids might have went down your route.
Yeah,
just the kind of straight line
Yes.
university kind of ingrained. Like, do you think you would have enjoyed the army if it wasn't so regimented?
Yeah, I would,
Or
because
were
it
you
was
looking
hard.
for guidance?
Nah, I was looking for hard. So I had a boyfriend, and he was a big, tall, strapping lad, and he got into Sandhurst. And this is classic me. He was a lot older than me, and I was like, well, if that twat can get into Sandhurst, I can bloody get into Sandhurst. And then some people told me that I probably couldn't or probably wouldn't, and I was like, I'll be getting into Sandhurst then, and that's what happens. And there's this weird, I don't know what that's about, but this idea of, right, okay, watch this. So but now, like in my generation, I can't include you and me, can I? Because you're
I'm
younger than
39.
me. How old are you?
39.
You're just a little baby.
Thank you.
You're so cute.
Thank you.
You are really cute, aren't
I
you?
guess.
Yeah.
That's how I get away with half the shit I say.
I can see your little face. You're like, I can see you could dial in your face and your teeth so that if you're in the shit, you can just pull a James and you can overwhelm someone with cheekiness. And I can see that. And it's very, very good. It's very effective already on me.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So most people were like, well, she was the first kid in our family to go to university. It became like a thing right back in the day. And now I'm like, my kids don't want to go to uni. And I say it a lot because you can see the other parents' faces. They're like, but we're so proud of Matilda because she's going off to study psychology at somewhere. And I think, oh, piss off.
Yeah.
You
Were
know?
you very outspoken back then? Or were you always on the fence?
No, not on the fence, just keeping it in, channeling it a bit more, I think. Like, I'll just channel it into being the best at this, or I can do that, or I'll beat you at that, or I'll be the fastest at this. That's what I did, the 800 metres for the army, and was the fastest. So it was just a bit more channeled back then in a more disciplined way, probably for the best.
Yeah, do you think that was just a case of bottling everything up, being conditioned, being smacked as a kid as well, that just fueled with something, and then there's a button where you just open the floodgates and think, fuck this.
Yeah. And I don't... let's be clear. I don't mind that I was smacked as a kid at all. I totally, that wouldn't be my choice for my kids now. I would flinch if I saw someone else doing it to a kid. But back in the day, I totally respect what Dad did for all of us, which was work really, really hard so that we got to do lots of stuff, and he provided for the family in the old school way. So I got no complaints about the way I was brought up. But there was a lot of rules in my life, and it was all getting ready to blow. And I think that reflects in later life when we get to kind of where we're at now that they're kind of pushed these rules on people. It's that same feeling I get, which is, come on then, watch me. No, I won't.
Yeah.
It's that same thing.
See, being that very outspoken character, but do you think those slaps from your dad fucking toughened you up as well, that made you who you are?
Got toughened up a lot along the way. So I got toughened up by my father and a very strict way of life. It was nothing ever, I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression about how I see my dad, because my dad's done very good by me all my life. And when my life went wrong, my husband ran off with a secretary. She was pretty good looking. My father stepped in.
Shagger.
And my father filled that role. So, full kudos to my dad. That toughened me up. I was massively epileptic, so I had massive seizures, and my arms would dislocate. I had to pull myself together overnight, get it back together, get my face on, and get back to work. That toughened me up. And the military toughened me up. Being shouted at by big guys in your face in a personal way is brilliant for setting you up for life. Hopkins, you could eat. I remember him, this big Academy Sergeant Major RSM shouting in Welsh across the parade square, you could eat an apple for a tennis racket with those teeth. The old lines, but they're bloody funny, but shouted at you. So I got schooled in taking a lot of face level criticism. Yeah, at a young age.
See how you like people shouting at you? Was your relationships the same? Because you can be quite overpowering. You're very very witty and you're quite intelligent. Where did you look for that in relationships as well, or were you the overpowering one?
Yeah, so that my first marriage was entirely that. So I met someone who was basically me, but older and male.
You like the older men?
At that time. Well, just it wasn't about any of that. It was about that he would walk in a room and the room would know he walked in. And it was really attractive to me. And it was kind of it was like marrying me, I guess, in a different way. And went to America, lived in America for 5 years with this guy. So, but that was problematic because we're the same thing. And I am way overpowering. I'm way too bossy. And that marriage, when we got married, lasted less than a year. My friends were like, give it a year. And I was like, 8 months, bitches. So he left. He ran away with, and I worked in the company, he ran away with the secretary. And I had 2 kids. We had 2 children under the age of 1.5, just about. I know, I got straight back on the horse.
Was that the guy you were shagging in the field?
Oh, no, that's this guy.
The new one?
That's my husband now.
Oh, good. The one that's lasted?
13 years. So it just goes to show, if anybody out there has got problems with their marriage or their relationships, if you just have sex in the field, it works.
Keep it natural, innit?
I know, man.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
that was a
changed days now.
It's the wildest day. Because the rumour, so the speculation, and I would allege it as well, knowing what I know about the press, is that was set up. But the truth was, we were just at it. And we'd driven off from the station where he'd, I think, come and got me. And we were just finding a place to do that because he was still at home with his wife. But the way it was set up with the gate, and also we both looked kind of hot, made it seem really staged. But I was kind of proud of the fact that that wasn't staged, although at the time I was working for the public sector, the weather people, the Met office, the people that do the weather, and I had to ring my boss, and I had a very highly paid job, and tell him I was going to be on the front page of the People in the morning straddling Mark. That is not a conversation. And this was still back in the time of Sensible Me, that isn't in this setting. This was back in the straight-laced Hopkins. I had to ring my boss and tell him I was naked on the front pages tomorrow.
Is that when the shackles came off, do you think? When you just started going, fuck it?
Oh my God.
Do you still laugh about that, you and your husband?
Oh, we don't talk about it, actually, because it's just part of what we were about.
It's not even a big thing, somebody shagging in the field.
I know, it wasn't a big thing, but it was a much bigger thing. And I'm not like, burn my bra, it's different for women. If it had been a bloke, it'd probably hardly been a story. But because it was sort of strong woman, it was just out of The Apprentice. So, 12 million views, blah, blah, blah. And here she is, the bitch you always thought, shagging someone else's husband in a field. I mean, it was perfect. If you couldn't write it. But I think that, I do think it's part of what Mark and I are about, is about being free. But what really, I guess, opened the can was, in fact, my first husband, Damien, leaving me. And it was as if all the rules I thought were rules didn't matter anymore. Because I was now me with 2 children under the age of 1.5 on my own. And I also worked for the guy. So I now had no job either. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I am alone. I don't have a job. I don't have a father. I don't have a husband. My straight line life that has been by the book, super performing, outperforming, 1 in 4, 1 in 3, came first in, wait a minute, I am now a single mother without a husband, a house and a mortgage and no job. And I got a good smack in the face, courtesy of my first marriage. And a lot of that was because I was a pain in the arse. So, there's no, he's the bad guy. Not at all. I don't have any feelings like that at all. Actually, I look at it as that was probably meant to happen, but it led to me applying to be on The Apprentice. And then all of the tools and the techniques and the nonsense and the naughtiness and everything I'd been keeping in for 28 years just came out. And I didn't even know I was doing it.
How did you handle that rejection? Being overpowering women, being probably quite controlling.
Being left.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things I've not talked of ever. But I was left. I've packaged this away fairly successfully. So I had Indy, my eldest, and she's 1.5. Then I had Poppy straight off the bat. And I was left in the maternity ward with Poppy, and he left, and he never, so I had the baby. He was sort of there, although he was chatting up the nurses. And then he left the next morning, and I woke up in the maternity unit with Poppy, and I had to get a taxi home. So I had a 1.5-year-old, a 1-day-old, and he'd gone to go and I knew he was with the lady he'd left with. And that was so brutal. And honestly, without a word of a lie, once I started working through the things you have to deal with when that sort of thing happens, so you have to separate stuff, the divorce papers come through, you have to start working out what you're going to sell, you have to work through shit. I honestly looked into, and I had routes to getting a hitman to take out my husband, not a joke. I had a good bunch of contacts in the Marines, and because it felt much more practical as a solution than going through the rigmarole. And I felt for my daughters that when they grew up, it would be much more reassuring for them, for me to say your father got killed in a whatever car accident, than it would to say, well, your dad left you. And I've never once ever said that to my girls, nor will I. And I've never once not held the line that things didn't work out, and here I am, and this has worked out great, and isn't your life great, and what should we do later? And I've never once gone back and criticised or talked of this with them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's when you then press the fuck it button and go, I'm already broken sort of thing, so I'm just going to own it?
I at the time of, say, applying for The Apprentice, I wanted to shift, so, if you're going along a straight line, I wanted to shift 90 degrees. And I didn't even care if it was 180 in a downhill trajectory. It didn't matter. I just needed to shift this thing. And I remember applying. I can remember filling in that application form. And I can remember using all the tools of life and things we learn about how do I get in this? How do I talk my way into this? And writing that form to get me on the show. And I knew kind of what they would be looking for. I knew what I had to do. I would be the big ball-busting corporate America woman in the white suit, which I wore all the time, who happens to have 2 kids as well, and is like power balls. And I wrote in one of the questions on the application forms, what's the worst thing you've ever done? And it was, I stole someone else's husband. And I went to the interview process, was mad for The Apprentice, but every time you got past an interview table, which was just set up like this, I'd tell them the stuff I knew they wanted to hear, and I'd be sent to the next room and the next room and the next room till I ended up in front of the big panel. And I knew this was the big panel. I knew they would want me on because I was kind of odd. I was an oddity, 28, alone, kids, powerful, big salary. And the example I gave in my handbag, by chance, I'd needed to get, do you have children?
Yeah, 2.
How old are they?
Both
Not
12.
To pry. So maybe that shopping for children's shoes, if you had a choice of killing yourself or shopping for children's shoes, you'd probably pick killing yourself. That's how I feel. I hate shoe stores, I hate other mothers, I hate other children. So I had drawn around the girls' tiny feet. They were only this big, one and 1.5. And I'd taken the template of drawing around their feet to the shoe shop because I thought, well, I'll just get the shoe that fits the template. I don't have to take kids in. I don't have to deal with children or people, and I'll get the shoes. And at the interview, that's what I produced out of my handbag because I thought it was a smart shortcut for an efficient way of mothering and life. And I could see on all of their faces that didn't seem normal to them. And I was like, oh, okay then. So I ended up on The Apprentice, and then that's when I was just honest. I was just damn honest. If someone was terrible, I said it. If someone looked dreadful in their outfits, I said it. If someone was too orange, whatever that orange Irish woman was called, I said it. And I thought everyone else was doing the same. Mm-hmm. And then it came to air, and it was just me.
So you were you walked away from that?
Yeah.
Why?
So got to the very end, and without wishing to bore everybody with the excruciating detail, essentially, when you filmed The Apprentice back in the day, it was filmed over 6 weeks, and they kept you hostage for 6 weeks. No phone, no money, no, you're not allowed out. You had a chauffeur, a chaperone, who stood outside the toilet door. I mean, it was oppressively restrictive. But it was filmed 6 months in advance of when it came out. But the last bit, the final, was held. So the idea was, if you got to the final, like I got to, you were supposed to go and sit on your ass in Brentwood and wait for TV World to catch up with you for them to air the final, for them to decide if you got a non-job with Lord Sugar, because there was never really a job anyway, because it was all a load of TV bollocks. And I was like, wait. You want me to go and sit in Brentwood for 6 months? I've got a life back home. I've got kids. I've got shit to do. I also had another job that paid more than the bloody Apprentice was offering. Like, I didn't need them. And so I fired Lord Sugar. And in the first take, I did it I did it my way. But of course, that wasn't allowed, it had to be redone. So I had to be a little bit more gracious, a little bit blah, 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 blah. And because of my children, I think I should leave. And then I was allowed to leave. So that's why I walked out, really, was because of this bizarre, well, A, I wouldn't work for Lord Sugar. B, there wasn't really a job. C, he's short, and I don't agree with short men. Sorry, James. And and D, I was never, ever going to sit in Brentwood. Yeah. So
how was Lord Sugar as a person?
Wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know. If you go on The Apprentice, you never ever speak to him. You know, and someone like me or you, we would find a wangling way of having a little 5 minutes with Lord Sugar, right? But never ever. So you're set up on your square, you stay on your square, he comes in, films, and off he goes. And even in the boardroom, you don't talk to him. You're not allowed to speak until he speaks to you. And then they wait for him to be fed his line, and then you retake. So if you said something smart, I get my line fed and we retake. So you never ever I've never spoken to Lord Sugar personally.
That's when your whole life kind of changed, though, isn't it? Because that got mega views, and you were the most spoken person on that show. So you came out
that was the moment it changed.
Is that when you realised, okay, fuck it, I've got something here, I'm going to roll with it? Or did you change characters, or was that the character you had bottled up since you were a kid?
Yeah, no, that wasn't a character really. I mean, it's just an extension, or probably a true version of me. Like, I'd kind of reined it back. School, uni, get through Sandhurst, do the right thing, corporate America, boardrooms, professional. But inside was all of this boo and colourful language and laughing and being obnoxiously rude and saying what I thought and not caring that you were shocked or that HR would be angry, and to the point where I could lose a job, and that all came out then. And initially I was just slightly terrified because I didn't know media. I didn't know what it meant to be known. I didn't know what it would be like to have the newspapers on my lawn, on my parents' lawn, all of that. I ran away and did the jungle and just hid. But when I came back, that's when I started really channeling this. Here's a topic. What's your thoughts on it? Give them the light. I believe the stuff I've said, but don't flinch from what you've said. That's the bit that's different. It was always, well, you're not you necessarily, James, but you're overweight, so I wouldn't employ you because I don't want to work with a fat person. But it was the pause after that was the thing. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really what I was saying necessarily. It was the fact that I would then hold it. And people found that so deeply uncomfortable as a British person. That's what it was. Do
you think you were the first woman in the UK to ever do such things and speak out like that?
I think so. It was the first time most people had seen anything like that. Or actually, I believe it's much more about that thing I was just saying about the silence. It was the first time they'd ever seen someone own it. So it was the first time they hadn't seen someone that, well, yesterday I was on this morning and I may have overspoken and I may have misspoken and I said this, but what I really meant was this, and I'm so sorry. And I refuse to ever do that. If I insulted you today or did something here, I would apologise to you immediately, and I would want it to be right between us, whatever that took. But in terms of apologising for something I've said because I don't like not being liked, that's my line that I refuse to do. I will accept not being liked for my views. I will accept a lot of the shit that's gone on in my life I have made happen, and I accept everything that's been done to me because I made the decision to put myself out there, and I personally believe you have to suck it up. And I think that about MPs who get death threats. I think that about people like me. You just got to accept, if you put yourself out there, it's not all going to be sparkles and glitter and contracts on the BBC.
See, when you're totally out there and you've went for it, this is me 100%, that was there an enjoyment, or when does it become on top where you're that person now, you can't go back? You see a lot of wet wipes now, saying shit, backtracking, saying sorry. And it's just, for me, it's weak. That stand your ground. Listen, we all make mistakes. We all go through different stages in life. We all go through different paths. We do kind of, I wouldn't say mature, but we see the world differently. I had Tommy Robinson on that. I never thought he'd be saying the shit that he's saying now that he did 3 years ago, seeing the world differently. Fair play to the man. Like, for anybody that sees the world, that we're all raised differently, but for me it's to let people say things from their side. Why are you getting so offended about what somebody's got to say? Now, we talk about the transgender stuff and drag queens reading story times. Let's stay away from the fucking nurseries, stay away from the schools. I express my opinion all the time on this shit and people go, oh, you're this phobe and that phobe. But I'm not. I'm just protecting my kids. Like, keep it 18 plus. If you want to do whatever behind closed doors, fucking do it. Don't feed my kids. They don't need to see that bollocks. And I'm not going to have you tell me to try and normalise that it's okay, because people are so dumbed down. They believe and see whatever they believe and see is gospel to them, and that's the scary thing, that we can get into lockdown, we can get into so much shit that people are so dumbed down, and the media has got such a big presence that people believe and people see the world from their views, and that's the scary thing.
I think that, and I also think I know that we have a support network out there, like this massive family of people who will give us cheer us on in the street or shout out their cab window, go on, bird. And we are so many, we might think we're on our own, we're not. And it's what I tell people on the road all the time. We are so many in number across continents, like America, Australians, they're with us and we're with them. But I think one of the things that's happened is not that people are necessarily sheep and stupid, though that's a proportion and we know who they are, and they pushed the vax and they isolated their family members and all the rest. But people are schooled into learning what happens to someone who stands up. So what happens to someone who puts their head above the parapet and continues. So you get employed by Daily Mail, you get employed by LBC, like mainstream stuff, and then you continue to speak truth. Watch what we're going to do to her. Watch what we do to Tommy. Watch what we do to this guy, Belfield, whatever. And it's like a lesson to other people. You don't want to be like them. You don't want to lose your home. You don't want to lose your jobs. You don't want to lose your family. You don't want to what happened to her. You don't want that to happen to you. And it's a way of controlling the general public or controlling opinion is to say, well, you just keep quiet over there or we'll come for you. And I think that's how we've been used, or I've been used as well.
So see, when you started off at that, was it cool, exciting, something fresh, somebody who's straight down the middle, somebody who's in the army, you end up working for the Met, you're making a good wage, obviously it would have been exciting and fresh and new and kind of as if you're living your best life. When did you realise how toxic it was working in these environments?
Yeah, that's so a thing. Is that there was an initial coming out of The Apprentice, and I genuinely thought I'll come out somewhere near the middle. And people will say, oh, she was a good egg, she was funny, and she's pretty smart, and good as gold, out I go. And of course, stayed to the end, it became a big thing, biggest bitch in Britain. Then I get caught humping my husband in the field, someone else's husband at the time. Detail.
As you do,
but nothing to see here. But there was the point where it was This Morning, and then I had my Daily Mail column, and I loved it. And my LBC show, like radio to me, is the thing I miss most of all. If I could have one thing back, just one thing would be my LBC show, because I bloody loved that show, because people would ring me in their pajamas from their kitchens on a Sunday morning, and they told their whole truth into that phone, because it was just me they were speaking to. And the nation, whoever was listening, got to hear ordinary people say things they really felt. And that was just the most amazing thing I ever got to do. But I realised after a year or so, I think it took me a good year or so to realise just how brutal, how toxic, how contrived, how manipulated it was. And that was pressure to not say that, to undo that. A meeting with, who did I meet? A Labour leader. And I had to undo that story. Just odd things happening that didn't make any sense necessarily. And then being eventually pushed out of Mail Online by this dark network that descended of heads of, so the chief rabbi was involved, the board of deputies, the Jewish organization, the Muslim Council, Brandon Cox, charitable organizations, Labour, and the Tories were involved in getting me removed from Mail Online. And then you start to see the level of darkness.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah. And when that network comes, and it's something I kind of say a lot, is don't be fooled by like left and right, or Jewish or Muslim or Catholic or any other religion, any religion you choose. And don't be fooled by this charity or that. When it comes to someone challenging power or questioning their power, they will work together like a swirling force of darkness, and they will descend and they will crush you.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Because I've created a platform now, we reach millions of views and downloads each month. We're becoming a voice for, not the voiceless, but for people just telling their story from their side.
Their stuff.
I've been offered big money to work for certain radio, certain TV, and I've rejected every one. I've seen my vision. But then, do I become a threat? Do I become a threat for people like these people meeting up the stairs in the big dark clouds and wait a minute, just fuck him off and cancel everything he's worked for? That, of course you become a threat, because I've spoken to enough people who have been cancelled for having a voice.
Yes, and you absolutely are a threat and will be being monitored. That 100%, that will be true. When you become too much of a threat and there is a decision to eliminate you, it might not be. So let's just say I am on the coastline in southern Italy watching humans being ferried across from Africa. And let's just say that those individuals coming over are Muslims, let's say. So what will happen with this gathering force of darkness is they won't send maybe the Muslim council out to make a complaint, or a signed letter from the head of the Muslim councils or all of the leaders of all of the mosques. They'll send actually instead the chief rabbi and the board of deputies. So they work in a cohort to leverage the complaints, and they're going to do it to get Neil Oliver off GB News. That'll be done within the week. And I think it's already happening, board of deputies. My point is, of course, you're a threat and you will question how much you want to continue that. But it's so important what you're doing, and our numbers are growing. And I bet you can feel the support is kind of surging towards you because people have a thirst for what you're doing. I think it's really important. And I think it's really brilliant of you, I mean this genuinely, that you didn't take one of the contracts you were offered. Because one of the really obvious mechanisms of control is to make you in-house somewhere where there are all sorts of control mechanisms that can be immediately placed on you contractually.
Yeah. When did you realise that, though? Because the smoke and mirrors, the glitz and the glam, it's sexy as fuck.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You can be brainwashed, and then if you're getting offered all this stuff, it's such a turn on, you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
You don't want. That's why I've got so much respect to everybody that gets cancelled, because I go, they've done something right.
It's brutal. People say cancel culture, and it's like, oh, I got cancelled off Twitter, and you're like, okay, but yeah. So let's, I'm the Daily Mail columnist. I'm most read. I'm being read more than Piers Morgan, and he knows it. I can't help it. It's just
get that in there.
I'm talking about the private, deeply satisfying things. Piers is on the phone to the editor to try and get his column put higher up on the page than mine, because mine's being met. Like stuff I know about that was very, very satisfying that I never talked of. And then I'm on a boat in Cannes because it's the Advertisers Weekend, and I'm the host of the panel. And there's all these famous people. I don't even know who they are. Jason Derulo, I got to dance at his crotch, was very exciting. That was Daily Mail. And then when I started pushing to be on the road, to be in the jungle at Calais, to be on the road in southern Italy, to be really amongst the heart of the stuff I'm writing about, which is what I love, that is when it all changed, and all of this glitter and yachts and beating Piers Morgan just sort of collapsed away, and I just saw all of this control. And I know people speak of the matrix, but the matrix of control that actually permits what you can say and what you can't. And on a certain day, like a switch is flicked, it descends. And I think being completely, a cancel is too weak, being completely removed from life pushes you to a point. And genuinely, I considered just walking out of my house and taking myself off to go swing, because there comes a point where, as a parent, you believe the only way you can protect your kids is to off yourself. Because when your kids are being reported to social services that you're an abusive mother, or you've got a couple of people coming to behead you in your home and it's being fitted with panic alarms, it's very clear that you are presenting a danger and a risk to your own kids. You become the magpie. I was the magpie in my own nest.
I know you're a strong person. I know you've spoke out against many people, but when were you at your weakest through all that?
It's come a few times. There's been times of really dark. I guess when they took, I have to be careful how I phrase it because I do own this. It is my responsibility. I am accountable. So if I say when they took my house, well, they didn't just come and take my house, did they? I wrote a tweet about someone that was incorrect. I deleted it. I apologized for it. I offered to meet. I offered to do whatever was required to try and correct my wrongs in the way I spoke to you of. But that wasn't enough. And a new law was made that serious harm was done at the time of publication. And that created a legal, a new legal reference, a new law that meant anybody, if you perceived that I'd done you serious harm over the last 5 years, you should come and sue me tomorrow. That's how the law stands right now. And it meant I lost my home. So it meant I had to go down a kind of bankruptcy process. And they took like some of my husband's stuff as well. I don't mean stuff, I mean money. So that was dark. And not the financial stuff, not money per se, just the home with my children's stuff. And they really liked that home because it was a lot of fun. And that was bad. The beheading attempt was all right. I found the assassination of Katie Hopkins, the play that the government part funded, and the posters going up. And my mother was particularly upset by those. I found that difficult to explain because everybody thought it was a very, high-minded laughing matter. And you just feel like, oh, you're so far from that. And then I think when I was duped into accepting a trophy called the Cunt Award. I can't tiptoe around the words. I hate that word. I never say it. And it wasn't the humiliation of me. And it wasn't just that I was tired and had been stupid and had been foolish. It was actually that I'd been tricked into going there because they said it was for white farmers. And I'd spent 3 months in South Africa with white farmers. I loved them. And I'd been super kind. And the gentleman who was the white farmer who'd been attacked, allegedly, that's what got me there to get the trophy, well, to give a speech in support. On the day, the boy that pulled the stunt said, oh, he's ill, so he can't come. And I'd offered to go and visit him in his bed and take him a whiskey. And that was a moment for me because it wasn't the humiliation. It was that I'd genuinely believed I was being kind. And ultimately, I know I am actually kind and I'm quite a decent sort of person. And that level of shame and using something I cared about, that was probably another time I was happily to just get out the door. I just wanted to go and lie under a sea.
I see you're a good person. Everything's energy. You've clearly got a great energy. You are a good person. You've kind of lived that life where that's who you were at that start and saying things. And a lot of the shit you say, I believe in what you say. A lot of shit I think, it's a bit much if I had Andrew Tate on, if I had Tommy on. I don't agree with everything they say. I talk pure shite sometimes. That's just why I've got the success I've got. It's because it's pure shite I talk. Sometimes I say, do you know what, James? I think I'm a genius. Then other times I think, you're just psychotic, pulling the wool over every fucking buddy's eyes.
Yeah, but it's good to flick between the two. Yeah. At least you have moments where you're like, shit, I think I'm actually really good at this.
Yeah.
But also, you, me, Tate, Tommy, all of us boys, we never once asked, you'll never find a clip of you saying to people, I demand that you agree with everything I say. And that's always the bit I pick up with people when they say, oh, Kate, I don't agree with everything you say, and I say, oh, remember, I never asked you to. Because it is that. We never asked that. We just said our stuff and we were confident that we were all right to be not liked. And I absolutely feel that way. And what's happened, funnily enough, is because the world went so mad and went kind of 180 on its head, I'm having this weird thing where instead of being the big, dark, malevolent, biggest bitch in Britain, I end up being this person that people are like, shit me, she isn't so bad after all, and she will just speak her line. And at this age where everyone's hiding, we need strong voices, yours, Tate, Tommy, and I'm having this, I'm so lucky to be given this second chance to do my stand-up or be online or have this amazing audience, and people are really marvellous.
What do you think it's all about, Katie?
Oh, it's coming.
What the
coming.
fuck is it all about? Like, because I always say this on podcasts, there's no blueprint or manual how we should be living life. I always thought a little fortune and fame. I'm nowhere near the level I'm going to get to, but I know how damage it can be to the mindset to try and just speak about life and other people's stories and let people, and the shit that you can get from that as well. Like, I'm just a normal kid from Glasgow. It came from fucking nowhere to then be creating something special that it's only just blossoming, and yet the shit that you get and you think, why? What are you so angry at?
Yeah. And I think, so I am relentlessly and endlessly like optimistic and positive and like upbeat, because I know this story ends well. So I don't know what time frame that's over. I certainly don't consider it to be in my time frame, because I'm not here for the long haul. Like, I haven't got like a terminal illness just yet, but old age never appealed. Like, if I go out, I want to go out. She died standing up. So I'm not around so much longer, but I believe that the story ends brilliantly. I also believe that our paths are already set. So every time in this damn life, whenever I've thought, okay, I need to clear out of this and protect my kids, something has happened that just made me go, wait a minute. And something comes in your path. So I believe the more you are free and throw yourself to the path, the more your life opens up, and yours surely is going to do exactly as you say. And then I also know that good does prevail. And I also know that never in modern history has there been a greater civilian militia than right now in America. Because every time Biden does something stupid, Americans go out and buy another weapon, and they are preparing. And all over this fine country, one of the things I'm doing that I don't speak of, but I speak of here, is I'm building a network of speakeasies. And many of them have been built already without me. I'm not taking credit. And I go from town to town, groups of 100, 150, 250, meeting in above cafes, above underwear shops. People are gathering. And it is like the time of prohibition for drink. And now it's speech. And that, to me, is a vast army of people that are gathering purely because they need each other. And that's what my stand-up gigs are as well. We look around the room and go, holy dooly, we're loads and we're pretty fine. And this is an exciting time. And we are facing darkness. We're going to be pushed and squeezed. We're going to be forced out of our private vehicles. We're going to be forced out of our homes. We're going to have every freedom we ever knew in our lives taken. And that's coming right now.
You see people speaking out left, right and centre now, they're just automatically getting shut down. As much as I love people to have free speech and that, but you still got to be careful, because they can just take your life away.
Just take it away.
In a heartbeat. So you've got to kind of play it safe. I'm not daft, so you've got to play it
that's the
safe.
trick of the thing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what, if we take the GB News example, they just got rid of Mark Stein because contractually they were trying to make him accountable for his own Ofcom fines, which can be £40,000. So he walked away. So now if you're the rest of the presenters, what do? Do you ally with Mark Stein and say, if you're getting rid of him, I'm off too? Or do you say, some platform is better than no platform? Trying to keep some kind of platform, even if we have to restrict and restrain ourselves, is better than no platform, right? And that's the point you're talking to.
It's a game.
It's a game, a frustrating game.
Would ever be at the forefront? Like, you've done it. You just says what you wanted.
Yeah.
I do it in such a way where I still say it, but I know how dark it's out there.
Yeah, and it's good what you're doing, and I think it's smarter. And as my husband said on the day that I was fired from LBC, one of the many, many jobs I've been fired from, if you know there's an open goal, right? You know, they're looking to kick the ball in the open goal. Don't bloody shift out the way. Like, at least jump around like the goalie, which is sort of effectively what you're doing. You're ensuring you're standing in front of the goal so they can't just kick the bloody ball in the back of the net and get rid of you.
How many times you been fired?
So many. I mean, so many.
Any made up excuses to get you fired? Or was everything?
No, they're really legit. Like, I was never fired in my sensible phase of my life. Like, wasn't fired from the army. I just had to leave because of my crazy wiggly epilepsy that was vile. But I was fired from the UK Met Office, the weather people, mostly because of fucking someone else's husband in a field and associated other terrible behaviours that came out during The Apprentice.
It's a legit one, to be fair.
I wasn't fired from The Sun. Murdoch did once fire me from his helicopter, but his managing editor refused because they ran the column that was kind of held up at the UN General Assembly as being the worst thing that anyone had ever seen. And I was interviewed under caution by the Met Police for that. I was fired from the Daily Mail, or I was let go, but that was pathetic. I was fired for, that was when the darkness descends, Muslim, Jewish. I was fired from LBC. We did that. I was fired from, so I was just taken to Australia to do Celebrity Big Brother over there, and I was fired from that because I spoke out about the lockdowns whilst being in quarantine, and then I got deported. Yeah.
$500,000 you were getting for the Australian one?
And a bit more. And
was that?
Yeah, and I was in country at a time when everybody else was locked down and you weren't allowed to go there, and you weren't allowed to visit your own relatives, and you weren't allowed to visit your father if he was dying. And they brought me in, and I gobbed off about that till the cows came home, and that really became problematic. So, and I guess that's my privilege, and why I absolutely would ask that you continue to tiptoe the line in a bold way. You're not tiptoeing like a ballerina, I appreciate that, but you're standing your ground within the ground you have, is because it's good for me to be out doing what I do, running towards the spears, and it's great for you to keep the platform because people need you, and we all have different roles to play.
I think you've already been running 100 mile an hour towards it. I
got nothing left to lose.
Yeah, I think
it's all
you've
good.
been there, done it. I've just spoke to enough people to understand how this system works.
And that's smart.
Yeah.
See, I consider that to be like an evolution, right? If we're free speech and we're like the monkeys standing up, you know, you're the evolution of it that keeps the platform, and I have so much sympathy with that. But I guess my heart will always be with the kind of, you know, rugged forefathers that were like run towards the machine guns, and I love it. I love that I can't be stopped. You know, you weren't allowed into America without the vaccine, so I turn up in America and I stand on the stage and I say, lock me up.
How did you get in?
I come in via Mexico.
What's that?
So Mexico.
Oh, Mexico.
Yeah. Did I say it funny? Did I say it in a southern softie?
Yeah,
when you say what's that, I was like, wait, does James not know what Mexico is? And then I was literally in my head thinking, how do I make it so he does without people thinking he's silly? I was like going to protect you like a mother.
Mexico, just because you delayed Mexico. Just because you delayed it. I thought it was some new vaccine or something.
Okay,
was getting.
No, I came in via Mexico.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, great place.
So, but the story goes back a bit, because when California was brutally locked down, California was like Australia's, like, it's run by an absolute maniac that thinks he's going to be the next bloody president, and he may well be. And I went out there when it was proper lockdown, and I went in backyards, garden to garden, doing events, churches that would be open. I had a kind of name over there for doing Fox, and I was kind of rallying the forces in California. So when America wouldn't let me in because I'm not vaccinated, the good people who I helped rally before came down in a van, and they would pick me up from Mexico, and I go across the border as an illegal. And then I would stand on a stage. This happened 3 months ago. And I say, you know, I'm an illegal. Bring it. Lock me up. And no one did.
Who did you go with?
Me.
Yourself?
Yeah, just always me.
Do you feel as if that's where you're not bravest, but you're happiest?
Yeah.
When you feel as if you're fucking the system?
Yeah.
Why is there such an American connection with you? Why do you love America?
So, because eventually, I really, really believe in what I do and what you do.
Thank you.
And I really, really believe in what ordinary people are doing, then fame matters not and audience matters not. If you make it through another day and you kept your kids all right, and maybe you managed to stay married or have a girlfriend or boyfriend, or you did something that made you happy for a day, you've done bloody well, right? That's my belief. And so I really believe in this fight. And I am so lucky now that I am completely free. So I don't own stuff. I don't. My kids don't have my name anymore. My husband's isolated from me financially, and I'm on extra time already. Like I had surgery, massive surgery, and I'm already on borrowed years. So I've got this like massive lucky bag of stuff that I can just put on my back, and that's my favorite thing. And the reason I love America so much is because I truly believe that one day it is America that we will call on, not to save us, but it will be like, not all of America, I'm certain, Texas, Florida, Virginia maybe, will become the sort of last bastion of the free world, and from there we will come again. So we're talking generations down the line.
Do you think you're more accepted in America?
Oh, during the years that I was eviscerated here, I was able to use my whatever talents I have. I was able to use them in America. But no, this will always be, people that get me here really get me. And now that my audience has been kind enough to let me back in, this will always be home. But Americans have freedom hardwired into their souls, and they can defend it with the Second Amendment.
How did you end up in a relationship with Trump? Like, how was he retweeting your stuff and that? Like, how does the President of America start sharing
I don't
your
even
stuff?
know how you've got the gall to just sit there, to look at me and my boobs and ask that question.
So I've kept looking. That's all the reason I want you here.
But like, how can you even ask, how did Trump end up finding me? Like really? I think so. I went on, so it started with, I went on a late show in Ireland. It's run by a complete frigging dullard of a guy who's, I swear to God, I estimate his cock is no bigger than that finger. And I have a feeling I'm correct. And he's called Ryan Tubridy. And I challenge Ryan to show his cock to you. And if I'm wrong, I will blow it. I mean, it shouldn't take me long, should it?
I'll film it.
But that was a little bit of a backstory there. I went on his show and there was outrage, because I'm going on a show, and outrage. Whereas in fact, every time we went on that show, I had the best time because it's a live audience and we'd have a riot on the show. And we're talking about Trump. He's talking about my love of Trump. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's better to be grabbed by the pussy than have a pussy for president. And it kind of broke the studio, and that clip got to Trump. And then behind the scenes at Men Online, he was very supportive of what I was doing, and because of their PR people, his PR people, he slightly became enamored with what I would write, and then he would tweet me, but every time he tweeted me, I'd lose something. So like, he tweeted me and they took my PayPal. He tweeted me again and they took my bank account, and he tweeted me again. I was like, fuck, stop it, will you? Like, they're going to take my clothes next. So, but it's been a joy actually. And that was a really fun time of life, was being on Fox and having Trump as my wingman.
It's funny, man, the shit that Trump gets, but he was the only president never to start a war.
There you go. And the only politician I know of who fought to build his country as opposed to manage its decline.
How corrupt do you think that presidents and prime ministers are? Obviously, there's people behind them pulling the strings, but do you think, how dark is it? Is it just a conspiracy theories fought, or is it a lot deeper than? I think
it's the darkest it could be. I genuinely think it's dark, and I still believe in Thatcher. You know, I still believe in her. I appreciate there's so many people who hate her, who were glad she was dead, all that, I get it. But I absolutely admired her tenacity at a time where women weren't in power at all, and her ability to get shit done at a time when it was the unpopular decision, and for her not to flinch from being hated. Those things were amazing things, and we've never seen them again in a politician. But now, bought and paid for. I mean, Rishi Sunak, who even is, what even, I mean, who is invisible. Not even that, but he's short. Can't stand short people. Wears short trousers.
How short is he?
Oh, he's just minute. He's like 5 foot. So what am I? I'm 5'9". He's like He's literally tiny. I can't explain it to be like 4 foot, like Sadiq Khan height, like virtually waist height. It's disgusting. That shouldn't be allowed. And, James, an important point is I blame women for short men, because no woman should be sleeping with a short man.
Get rid of them out, fucking
the
press them out.
Yeah.
What do you think of all the equal rights shit now and all this femininity and masculinity?
Oh, such bollocks, isn't it? Women really did the number on themselves. They want all these rights, all these rights, all these rights. And it just made people frigging unemployable. Like, you want to have a baby, fine. That was sort of your choice. That wasn't the choice of the guy who was trying to earn enough wages to pay you, you silly moo. And the idea that someone's going to pay you to sit on your ass at home with the baby that you chose to have, like, all of that shit I'm not into. Americans have 6 weeks unpaid maternity leave. I'm all about that. I'm all about proper strong women that accept that they've really stuffed up. Like, if you're fat, that's no problem. But you ate yourself fat, fine. Maybe you've got a medical condition. You can still do something about it. Nothing's a problem if you just own it. Like, I own all of my bad crap. Like, I own it. So I'm all right with it.
Why did you get so much stick for the kind of fat shaming, kind of, what was it, check in and weigh in at the same time at the airport? Like, why was it so?
Weigh in, and when you check in, well, that's just economic sense, isn't it? The idea that I have to pay for my 30 kilogram luggage, and yet some fat twat next to me who weighs 240, they don't have to pay. That's bullshit. But no, what really set their blackboard lickers off was that it should be window lickers or blackboard scrapers, shouldn't it? But what set them off was me putting on, so what am I, 8.5 stone, and I put on close to 4 stone in 3 months, and then lost it again in 3 months to prove that fat people are lazy. That's what really sent them over the edge. And fat me was bloody disgusting. But the point I was trying to make was that we all have choices, and you can choose to do something about stuff if you want to.
Why do you think we live in a very softened generation now?
Just this wanting to be liked. I think it boils down to parents wanting to be liked all the time, being mates. You hear them, don't you, in supermarkets? Hugo, don't do that, darling. Darling, don't do that. My father, boosh. Not saying that was necessarily the right thing. And teachers wanting to be friends, and everybody wanting to be loved, and no one willing just to make the tough decisions, call it straight, say it, get the job done, move on, which is a good military way of being. Mm-hmm. And we're going to need some of those skills again as we head towards what is coming.
Do you think there'll be another war?
I think there's going to be a big bloody fight at some point. And if it happens in America, I want to be there for it. But we are going to allow 15-minute cities to happen. British people are going to allow their vehicles to be taken from them. An American could not physically process the idea that an energy company could break into your home to fit a prepayment meter while you're not there. An American cannot understand that concept because it could not happen in America. Because if you enter an American's home, you will be shot.
I used to believe Britain was one of the strongest nations on the planet. It just seems to be becoming the weakest. Even in Scotland, fucking guy raped 2 girls, put a wig on, went to court, and they're fucking trying to put him in a women's jail. If you're a man, if you're born a man, you should not be going to a women's prison. You should not be competing in women's sports. You should not be competing in pageants. Like, just fucking, if you want to make changes, be who you want to be. I always support it. I always state this because I feel as if people come for me, but I always state it. Be who you want to be.
Do what you want.
Fucking leave it away from everybody else.
Do what you want. Don't ask us to believe it.
Yeah, and just don't try and normalise it.
Exactly. You go do you. Leave us be.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not down about it. That's the point, is more darkness is coming. So 15-minute cities, we'll see Oxford lockdown and Southend and wherever else it's coming. We'll see more being taken away, digital currency. We'll see restrictions on how much energy you're allowed to have or use. We'll see a credit system come in. But at some point, a good number of British people are going to stand up. And I can feel it already. I
feel as if people are going to stand up. I feel as if there's, like you say, there's more darkness coming.
It's coming.
And I didn't realise how silly people were and how fucking stupid people were.
Yeah. And what we need a lot of them to do, just like if I'm running, if I'm running a section or I'm running a platoon, I need to find my guys. So my section leaders would be my 4 or 5 key guys that I can rely on. And then I need to get them to handle the stupid ones, right? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, like stupid as in you're thick. I just mean the ones who don't want a part in it, who aren't going to stand up or who are going to get in the way. So we need all of those people to just get out of the way. And those of us who are going to stand up are going to stand up. And it's going to be strong and it's going to be mighty. And I'm really excited for it. Whatever guise it takes.
I think you just like fighting, Katie.
I absolutely love it.
You feel as if you've been fighting the last 15 years non-stop?
Before that.
Longer?
Before that, yeah. Because I'm not at all playing a victim card. I don't ever talk really about my epilepsy, but when I had seizures, those seizures got bigger and bigger and bigger till I was having them every single night, 3 or 4 a night, and they were big bastard violent things, and they would dislocate one or both my arms. I'd bite through my tongue all this lit, which is why it looks a bit funny, and it broke my back once. My point is, every day I'd get up and think, right, when I've got my arms back in and whatever, I'm going to present as if I'm normal. And that continued. I'm probably the first epileptic to get through Sandhurst, The Apprentice, corporate life, all that I've done until I got cured. I had this massive seizure thing going on secretly at night. So I think I've always had something to fight. Mm-hmm. I really like the fight. And now I'm really fortunate because the fight is really for a good thing, which is for ordinary people to live their life just as free as they can be.
Yeah. You're clearly a fighter, or else you wouldn't be at the level you were at and still doing what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? That takes courage and balls. One bit of pressure and people just fold like a fucking deck of cards now. When did it come on top with the head and you had to get the operation? Like, what was it? Because you nearly died, huh?
Yeah. You felt it. You haven't felt it, have you? How squeamish are you? You have to feel it.
Yeah, I guess that.
So don't squidge, will you? Because it is actually my brain.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm...
Fucking second.
No.
I felt it.
Right, hold on. Stay there. Right. Can you feel this?
Yeah. So
That's brain moving. Sorry.
It's not that big, to be fair. It just confirms a lot of what people have been saying for years. That's fucking minging. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Are you talking about my vagina?
Both. The vagina's better, to be fair. I know you're nearly 50, but that's better nick than the fucking head. That's flat, man. Isn't it? How big was that operation then?
So they got it's basically the full Frankenstein. So they get a physical circular saw, and so the bit that's missing that you just felt for your audience is about that big, like of your skull. So they circular saw that, and then they chop from here to here, so it goes from ear to ear, and then they open. So they pull all this back, which is obviously why I've got wrinkles. But so they open you like that, so they can get in, and then they got the bit that's like a tumory thing out, threw it away. I'm imagining that kind of gesture. Yeah. And then for a while they do, it's called a bone flap, which is fairly disgusting, and they put that back in because they're supposed to, because it's your skull. But mine, I got meningitis and things were pretty not great. So they went back in, opened it all back up, and then threw it away. So I live like this, like a little boiled egg, and you can feel my brain move. And that's my best party trick that I have. But it cured me.
Can you not get something to cover that? Did they not get something to cover that? Or?
I tell you what, they turned up in my hospital room with a fucking epileptic dickhead helmet made of foam, and I told them to fuck right off.
That'd be funny though. How good's that for your comedy show though?
What? Yeah. Imagine me walking
Foam
around
head.
with a freaking foam head. I mean, no disrespect to any kid or parents who've got a child who wears one, right? If I'm laughing about this, I'm laughing at me. I'm not laughing at your kid. And if your kid's got epilepsy, you know, bloody, you have every sympathy of mine, and anything I can do, email me and I'll bloody try and help. But there is hope. I'm laughing at myself.
Yeah, of course, we've got to laugh.
Yeah, but I just want to be, you know, because I feel badly.
Because it's serious, yeah, of course.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, that nearly killed me. But they tell you before, they call it the deficit, which I love it when medical people, you know, use clever words so that, you know, they're not just fucking telling you straight, which is what I prefer, right? I prefer to sit with you and you go, Katie, look, if this goes tits up, you could lose your left hand. And if this goes tits up, your left leg. Worst case, you lose your speech and your sight. That's basically what it was. So, and I'd said to Mark, well, I'd rather not come back at all than lose those things. But turns out I came back more or less normal. I mean, there's bits of me that aren't quite right.
When did people find out you're going for that
Still
operation?
feel my vagina.
That's the main thing, do you know what I mean? What I mean? As long as you can feel the grass in your ass when you're shagging in a field, it's all good. It's worth it. Like,
I have to, it's a bit like a farmer's hand down there.
yeah.
You could put a nail gun through it.
Get the foam head down there. See when you're going through that operation, all that.
Listen, I still make a real effort.
Yeah, of course, man. You're a fighter.
When I think it's the moment,
Yeah.
I'm like, I pretend to
See,
squeeze
going
it.
for that operation, did you keep that hush hush?
Didn't tell anyone.
Because you could have died.
Didn't tell my kids.
That's a brave thing to do, though. Why not?
Set me off any day of the week. So I told my mum and dad, and obviously lovely Mark knew because he's taking me. And then I made a folder which I still have, for my kids with all the things in, letters and where all their little bank things were and their savings and things I thought they should know that mattered. None of which probably mattered, actually. And then I arranged with my mother, because they were coming to take over the house, because children, that they would pull up and I would leave the house. Ooh. And Mum and I would pass in the garden and we wouldn't speak to each other because this would happen. And so that's what we did. So Mum came with Dad, came in the door. We passed them, got in the car and went to London for the surgery. So yeah, I just didn't tell anyone.
That's brave, man, because is that your character, though? What I've seen with this interview is that you don't want anybody to feel sorry for you. Why? It's not even feel sorry for you, but it's like you fight the fight alone. You're probably your whole life. Like it's hard to explain, like, but I already see you're a good person. I know you're a kind person. I can see you're a soft cunt as well. Like, but
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, no, but I've interviewed enough people. I know who's good and who's not. Everything's energy. You've got a great energy, and I know you're a good person. You can tell with the sensitive side as well when you've got that shield on and I'm this and I'm that, and I believe it. Like, because even when you never want to play the victim, and I get it. Nobody does, but why have you got that mentality where you don't want people to maybe not see vulnerability, but why have you always? You're not even protecting yourself. You're trying to protect the people around you, but while doing that, it's a lonely case. It's a lonely journey. Why do you do it?
But because I genuinely want everybody to be all right. I genuinely want ordinary people to be super happy. I sound so naff, and it sounds so like the woke people that I criticise. The reason I signed up for the army is because I'm proud of being British. I'm proud of what this country stood for and stands for, and I'm proud of ordinary people fighting hard to try their best. I bloody am. And anything I can take on that I think helps push that forward, I'm happy with. And I would never... It may well be easier for me to have time at home speaking about what was going to happen and how scared I was and how I didn't really have the courage to have the surgery, and I was actually scared of not coming back. Well, no, I was scared of coming back, but without my leg or hand or sight. But it would be much worse for my children to be worried or upset. So it's always better for me to handle it alone. And the same with when I'm in danger or at risk on the road, like South Africa or at times, different things I've done. It's better that I just handle that myself rather than cause worry to someone else. And I'm still all right with it. But you are right. There is a big well of the pressure of that, or the upset of that I definitely carry, and it's not that far away from me.
Yeah.
But it's also a good reminder and a good motivator. And it's useful when horrible things happen, like you get given the cunt award and you're humiliated by 8 million people. Sometimes this is helpful because at very worst, I can remind myself that I know I'm not a bad person. So even if 8 million people are laughing at you, you can go into yourself and know that you're not a bad person. And that's actually kind of a powerful thing.
1,000,000%. Do you think a lot of the stuff that you said and done as well was not a deflection, but an act, say to them, protect yourself, that you weren't hurt and weren't broken?
If people saw, and that's why actually over the last period of time it's been very good, because on my YouTube or Insta or whatever, people see a lot more of me and they get this me. And when people see this me, like on Celebrity Big Brother, because it was all the time, people go, oh, she's just this normal, ordinary, terrible woman who has terrible hair and a bad vagina, and she's pretty funny.
Half
and
a skull
she's
now.
half a skull, bit manky, sweaty armpits occasionally, growing a beard. But she also means all that shit. And they go, oh, well, maybe I don't hate her. Maybe I kind of like the fact she stands for all that. So it's been like a full circle.
We seem to have a lot more backing now. But even when you were in the Big Brother house, what, 6 years ago?
I don't even know. I was in with Callum. I was in with Callum Best.
I like
Love
Callum.
him. He's such a good
Callum.
lad.
Yeah.
Such a good. He
when
carries
you
a
finished
lot.
second as well, it shows you that people respected you and agreed with what a lot of the stuff you say.
Well,
What did you think? How did you feel taking that? Because what I've realised over the years as well, when people complimented you or people gave you don't really accept it either. So was that strange for you to be one of the most hated in Britain to then
it was
becoming
terrible.
one of the most favourite? Like,
That bit was terrible.
Yeah.
So I went in as the most hated of all time, and I only took a little bag because I was like, oh, I'll be out in a week. And I didn't want to go in because I didn't want to go in the house for all that time, like in a house with nothing to do. Like it's a bit like sit in Brentwood for 6 months. So you haven't had bucket. And then of course everybody has a price, and they just kept on with the cash until I was like, okay. So went in there, and actually, and you will understand this a bit, or a freelancer will understand this. For me, it was like, okay, well, I've got the money. I don't have to write columns. I don't have to create content. Sorry. I don't have to, I had no pressure of a boss or work or people needing me. I can just like chill the F-bomb out and be me and just hang out in my onesie and chill out with Callum, which is pretty much what I did. And and Michelle Visage and stuff, and had a right laugh. So that was kind of epic. But then, despite every single housemate voting me out every single time because I was an obvious choice and I probably pissed them off and they hoped that I'd be got rid of, every single time the damn British public would keep me in, and it became ridiculous because I was voted out every single time inside the house. But outside, everyone kept me, and that became emotionally overwhelming to have support like that.
Do you feel vulnerable when you're like, not now because I believe you accept it now and I believe you know now you're good. You've always believed you're a good person. I believe that anyway.
I believe that.
Do you know what I mean? But then was a vulnerability. Did you see that as people could see through me then?
I like it in the moment. So like when I'm doing stand up now on stage, right? So there's 1,000 people or whatever. In the moment where everyone's laughing and having a great time, and I know what's coming next, and I maybe I like the next bit because it's written well, and I love words and I love writing, and everyone's having a blast. That's when I'm like, that's me. This is me. I'm so happy with this. This is me. But the bit at the end when it finishes and everyone claps, I don't like that. That's like, okay, that's fine now. Thank you. That's lovely. I appreciate that you're here. So it's in the moment of the thing that I'm at my happiest. So it's why I think I'm at my happiest in the fight, because it's my home, and I feel really good about it.
What about Piers Morgan? What's your opinion on him?
Just never been really that worth all of the attention that he gets. Kind of unimpressive.
Do you think he plays the game well though?
A brilliant strategic. He has a brilliant strategic understanding of the media landscape and how best to play it for maximum personal gain. And that's all he is.
What about Andrew Tate? I was one of the first to have Andrew on. I know him personally, and it's just sad to see that what can be done with you talking about this black cloud.
I know what's brought him down.
You know what I mean, like, why do you think all the stuff is happening to him? Do you think he'd become too influential?
Yeah, I could list right now the joining of dark forces that work together to bring him down, and by name and by organisation. And I could even list the signed documents they will have produced to achieve what they achieved, because I've seen them when they were used for me. And I absolutely respect the guy. I love that my son loves a lot of what he says. And I love that my daughter, who'd never listened to any of what he said, thought he's a misogynist, because that's so typical. And I love that he stands for strength. And I love that he stands for men being manly. And I'm ashamed that he's been put away. And I'm ashamed of people who run away from him, or the people who've had him on their show, not you, had him on their show for the eye. So this would be a Piers Morgan, for their clicks, for the eyeballs, because Piers wants some of what Tate's got. But when shit happens to Tate, they run away because they want to self-preserve. That really grips me. That's why I walked Tommy to prison. That's why I'm still mates with Belfield and have tried to be in prison, see him twice. You don't walk away.
Yeah, that's how I've stayed my ground, and I've supported the guy on all social media platforms.
Good.
Because, listen, if he's fucking guilty, he's guilty. I'll be the first to apologise, but right now I've got to stand my ground, and I believe that he's not. I believe every time I've seen him around people, he's very well mannered, very well respected, and you just sense that energy, man. Like, I'm very not. That's when it's just, when you see people struggle like that. I seen a video of him yesterday coming out of prison, and he looked drained, man.
He looks dreadful.
He looked fucking
He looks
shocking.
shit.
Yeah.
Those tracksuit bottoms are not helping anyone. I'll always say to anyone, whatever you're going to do, no matter how low your life gets, do not be in a tracksuit bottom. The tracksuit bottom never helps a gentleman, not in any regard, no matter how fit you may or may not have been. So when he comes out, and obviously he'll be calling me, I imagine, what, first on the list, second? He'd be like, Kate, what do you think? And I'd be like, Tate, listen, the tracksuit bottom thing, stop that shit. But I really like the boy, and I think he's been completely stitched up like a kipper. You know, I think he's done nothing wrong. I think absolutely he became too powerful. And so this same force of darkness, the switch was flicked and boosh, it descended.
Scary though, isn't it?
Totally.
You see a lot of that in yourself when you see people getting fucking ripped apart like that.
I see it, and I see the staging of the media. So you know how much planning has gone into it, because they have absolutely staged, say, in the initial removal from the house into the minivan, leave the door open, have the photographer here, position him in the middle of the vehicle so that you can get a good shot of him, position him here with the cameras ready, so when he comes out he looks a bit bedraggled. Staging for the world's media to see the crushing of Tate.
It's scary, man. It's so scary that people don't realise how dark and satanic the world is sometimes, even with Sam Smith stuff. I've seen his music video, man, and I've been very outspoken about it. Be who you want to be, but he's pretending to blast the arse off a man while getting peed on in a music video, and kids can watch that. The reason why I'm so... it's because I've got kids. I understand how much I try and protect them. I'm probably overprotective. Do you know what I mean? Because I know how fucking dark the world can be, and especially the stuff I'm doing now. Like, I'm so... I wish I had the homeschool kids, if I'm honest, but we live and learn. Yeah.
I know.
What do you think of the schooling? What do you think of the education system?
Well, two things. One, Sam Smith, he looks like an undercooked Greg sausage roll with nipple tassels on. And anybody, I don't care if you think you're trans or bi or queer or whatever, if you're morbidly obese, go and put some clothes on, mate. Put some kit on that, because that is beastly. Like, proper, dirty, disgusting looking guy who is chronically now ill. That's ill. Okay, that. Schooling, I've really changed. Like, I used to be like, ooh, girls, you must go to school. And I got a private tutor, which I paid for because my husband had left me and I had to make up the deficit. So I had to pay for a tutor. And I was like, you know, like some maniac. And now, like, my 14-year-old, the teachers were on strike and the kids were supposed to like log in online, and Max was like, as if, and I was like, as if, let's go and surf. So we went off, and I'm like, Bush, if you can have a day out of school, we're going to learn more than we're going to learn in school. And we got the same issues there, LGBT, blah, 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 blah. So, but Max is really kind of solid. He knows his own stuff. He likes Tate, and he's got a job. So I made it that my only requirement of my kids was that they all got a job at 14. So he's got his job now down at the local garage. So I don't have a lot of time for school or the British school system. I would much prefer kids got to leave school at 14 if they wish to, and just go and hook up with tradespeople.
I know that some of the travellers are... In fact, one of the travellers are a billionaire, Alfie Best. Like, he left school at 11.
Come on.
Billionaire?
But, you know, if you're really into school, you love it, and you want to go and study, you know, community matters and LGBT and all that, bloody do it. Like, you go do that. But for the normal rest of the kids who want an adventure first, get out there, you know, and I'm really happy that my kids are out of that now, apart from one.
What about Kanye West? I know a lot of the stuff he sounds, you think he's crazy, man, but there's a lot of stuff that makes sense. That, what do you think? What's your opinion on him?
I think he just got
a bit lost.
I think he, just got a bit lost and bored.
Yeah, I think so.
I think what he needed was a really like smart, hot woman like me in his life. I'd look great in some Yeezys, and he needed a bit of like, I think he needed a hobby. Honestly, I think he just got pissing bored, and so he just started doing all sorts of shit randomly, and now he's lost everything. Like, he's more broke than broke.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
He's got nothing left.
What a talent he was as well.
Right.
But do you see a lot of that, the media breaking people down? Do you think, if that was somebody else went through even a fucking 10 for you and through, they'd be suicidal?
Yeah, it'd push,
do you know what I mean?
And
Like, push him over the edge, and you can understand that.
Oh, I get
Do you
it.
see a lot of people in this environment just broken down?
And I see how close they go to the edge as well. And all sorts of people over the 15 years or so, I've always made sure that when the, doesn't matter really what side they come from, even of any argument, when I see that machine go for them, I'll always get in there and just say, look, you know, if you need a chat, if I could just say a couple of things and tell them a couple of things that help me. And that's been a variety of people. So most recently, I guess, Andrew Bridgen, I know he does a line as if he's fine, but that's not been so good for him. There was a time, the guy that runs the Free Speech Union, Toby, you know, many people that don't speak of it have been pushed to the very edge, I call it sort of the high wire, you know, between life and death, where you're walking a fine line because you don't know if it's worth it anymore. And you've been pushed there by surround sound darkness. And you honestly believe the only way to stop the noise is to, as I would explain it, get underwater. And that's why drowning, I so understand drowning, because it feels very silent and quiet. And so I'll always get either to people's agents or get to them and just say, because I think so many people see me as the last person on earth that would ever want to help someone. But, you know, it turns out the opposite's true. And we'll know that the pressures that have been put on us or Tate or whomever, there are ways to try and get through. And in the initial phases, it's just holding on and breathing. Like literally, your only job is to try and get to tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And that 100% is how I get some people through some of this.
Because Tate talks about the Matrix, to cancel them first, they'll put them in prison second, and then they'll kill them.
Yeah.
Like, how dark is, whether it's the Matrix or the Men in Black, like, do people give you a warning? Look, either rein it in, sign this contract and give you a bit more money, but follow this agenda, or
it just keeps coming.
It happens.
Keeps coming. Yes.
Once they're out for you, they're out for you.
Yeah, and then if I describe it best as one of those, like if you imagine a massive, I don't know, not a pressure cooker, but something big and robust. So first of all, so they eviscerate you from your job. So, you know, everything you were working for. And then, you know, so then it's social services on the call, but they always call on Friday evening at 7:00. To tell you that your kids have been reported, they're going to need to be interviewed, there's been reports of abuse. And then the call comes always in the evening from the police, or there's been a report of we need you to come in for informal questioning. And then in Australia, 2 a.m, we might have to take you to immigration detention, and then they shut off your water, and they just keep hoping they'll tip you. And with litigation, you know, the legal letters, with the costs, and they just pile it up till there's no air for you to breathe anymore. I can feel that pressure, and I know it's on tape. And the lovely thing that we can do is get in under it and just lift it up a little bit so someone can just breathe a little bit, you know, until they can breathe a bit more.
See, when you were going through that, did you feel as if nobody cared?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did anybody ever come forward for you and say, listen, I've got you?
There's always, so this is sort of to my earlier point about your path is already set. There's always been one person, like Lovely Mark is a constant in my life. Like, he's an unbelievable guy, and he's quiet and calm and patient, and is called Lovely Mark by other people. But there's always been someone that just presented themselves at that moment, that just lifted up the concrete. And it's been the weirdest thing. And it's happened every single time. And it's why I guess I try and be that person a little bit for somebody else now when I see them having it done to them. And but it is absolutely crushing. It is absolutely designed and coordinated to get you to swing.
Yeah. How did your relationship with Tommy Robinson start?
Oh, I was always an admirer. I always had liked, because we all have these different roles to play. You have this role where it's really important. You keep this ground that you've got. This is your. I don't mean other people can't come on it. I mean, you don't let them take it from you. You keep this turf. You stay in front of the goal. And Tommy was operating in another field, on the streets, the Luton lad, I won't be crushed either, that, and I so loved that. And he just was relentless in the fight to speak the truth and stand outside the court. And even when we knew he'd go down and do time inside, even though no one had ever done time inside for contempt before, that day when we walked in, this is where ordinary people just come into their own, walking him to prison, court, but prison, the wall of noise that day, it still makes makes all of the hair on all of my body stand on end. Or not that there's that much hair on my body, just so you don't get the wrong image. But it was, Tommy Robinson. And it was like, there was something really euphoric about ordinary people going, we're still with you. But yeah, Tommy sometimes criticizes, I know, because he feels that he gets left to fall by some of his own side, me included. And I understand that as well. Mm-hmm. He would like me to have all of his content on my channel all the time. And I totally get that.
What about religion? Like, I see religion as to divide the world. I was raised a Catholic. I've got a big fucking Jesus crucifix tattooed in my back. Have
you?
Yeah, I'll show you later.
That's quite hot.
I was going through a stage in my life. At that stage, it served me at that time. I thought, but now I just see religion as to divide the world. I know people follow religion. They're great people. Some people follow it. They're bad people.
Yeah.
Like anything in life. But what's your opinion on religion?
I've probably chilled out about it a bit because I used to be like, it's the big problem. And actually, when we talk about the gathering of the matrix or the darkness, heads of the absolutely, the darkness sits with the heads of the Catholic Church, the chief rabbi. Heads of religion are absolutely part of the controlling matrix, 100%. But at an ordinary person level, I quite love that people have belief in something. And I believe, because of my belief, which is your path is set, that's sort of religious. And for other people, their belief gets them through. And I think we need to believe in something more than just ourselves or our everyday or our work or our kids or our dog. Yeah,
so I believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
You've got to believe in something. You
do.
Fucking died. I believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
I believe I've went through, I used to have an addiction, so I went through NA, GA, gambling, fucking lots, and people turn to Christ and it changes their life, and then they help people. I've done homeless work.
Yes.
There's people preach the Bible and stuff, and it's saving people's lives. So be it, but there's so much bad in the Bible, there's so much bad in the Quran, so much goodness in it as well. I've got Muslim friends, I've got Christians, they're amazing people. As long as they're not harming anyone, I'm so be it. But for me, there's a higher power. Like, I question, maybe not even a dark question, but it's a deep question. Like, why do you think humans are here? What's your opinion on it all? Because I question that. Like, what the fuck am I here for?
Yeah, right.
What's the purpose? What's the point? Who made us? How that brain, the central nervous system, the spine, the liver, the kidneys, the heart. So who's created that? Some genius to have put all that together. Because I think, are we in a game? Are we avatars? Are we aliens? Is this just some metaverse fucking? Because time goes that fast. I just turned 39 last week. I know your birthday's the 13th of February. Mine's is the 2nd. Aquarius.
You stop.
Yeah. So, it's just, what do you think?
The big why are we here thing.
Do you ever question that?
Yeah, all the time. And so I have this big relationship with the sunshine. I kind of use that as an excuse to get to the sun wherever I can and to spend more time in, hold on, Mexico. So saying it your way so we don't have any confusion. But I like when I see the sun in the morning when I'm out running, right, I'll stand and I will stare at the sun because I'm like, put the sun in me and it will power me through the day like some rechargeable cell. But I believe our purpose here is to like carry the torch, right? And so every day we're carrying the torch, like not literally a torch, but we're carrying this baton, and our very best effort is to try and make other people's day kind of all right or a bit better, and to carry this kind of faithfully as we can, like how we got past it, so that we can pass it on. So that's like parenting or having kids, or if you don't have kids, you're still trying to like do your best effort so that when you pass it along or you pop off, you left it pretty much all right. That to me is what our job is. So it's not like got a massive meaning, but then when you look at the darkness that's coming, when you look at how oppressed we're about to be, when you look at how freedom is about to be crushed out of us, it does make more sense that you're going to take on this freedom torch and we're going to pass it over with 15-minute cities not being allowed to fly. You have to be vaccinated, digital currency. Piss off, because that is not what we took the torch on as. So that's my reckoning with it. But I like that people believe. I do. And I love that Americans still say one nation under God. And Americans believe your freedoms are given to you by God. And that might sound religious and kooky, but what it means is no man can take them away. And that is instilled in them. And if only more of us understood that no man can take them away. No nipple height Rishi Sunak can say net zero is the ambition. No, it's not. Piss off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, when you're back in the day, when you're controversy and bringing all the views, how much do you look back and then feel used? Because I watched Andrew Tate there, and how much, because Piers Morgan needed Andrew Tate for his show, I believe, to bring views, and that's how
100%. That's why I'm pissed at him, because then he runs away. He if there's this and that's getting attention, that's Piers. If there's this and that's getting attention, that's Piers. He'll just move to he's just an attention vulture.
But that's what you were as well, because you were on Celebrity Juice, you were on everything and anything. Like, do you look back and think, they fuckers used me? But you're still promoting your own brand as well.
Yeah,
but,
no.
Do you know what I mean?
was happy with it. Anything I said I'd do, I was happy with. Anything I didn't want to do, Celebrity Big Brother, I didn't do until the point they paid me so much that I felt morally obligated, because my husband was looking at me like, yeah, they're going to pay you this much to sit on your ass in a house. So I feel absolutely not used by anybody in that regard.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I was naive about some things, like going on The Apprentice. I thought I'd come out looking all right, but that's my naivety. I still chose to engage with all of this, and I don't feel used by anybody.
See, when you got cancelled, then you get was the operation come after being cancelled?
No,
before that. So see, when you're going through all that as well, what are you then thinking about your life? Are you just thinking, what next? Or did you have plans?
Completely removed.
Yeah.
Well, for a while I was doing what I have to do today is breathe in and out, not bend yourself.
Because that's years and years of hard work as well, putting yourself at the forefront, taking all the abuse, taking the death threats.
Well, and also learning to write columns well, learning to write columns people would read, learning to write columns that my boss would approve of. My boss was not working for Mail Online. It's not, most men don't last too long there because it's brutal. If someone doesn't like what they've done, they will pick up a phone and shout your friggin' nuts off until you do what they want. It's a brutal industry. Same with radio. If you don't perform, you're gone. So I got myself good at that career to have it all taken. Yeah, that. But it just I guess this refusal to stay down, that thing that we have in us, that enjoyment, feeling most myself when I'm in the fight or on a stage, or people are with me and they're having a good time or feeling better. That just is in me. I can't stop it. And so I set out I spent 3 months on the road in America, just bringing audiences together where I could work. And eventually now Britain has sort of caught back up with me, and I'm very lucky that I have the opportunity possibly of a stage again. Do you feel as if this is a fresh chapter? A new improved Katie? I wouldn't say new improved me. I'm very lucky to be super well. Really am. I'm beyond lucky to have the people that support me, that turn up at events and stuff. It's awesome. And I'm really, really happy to be alive now. I think sometimes we have the worst of times coming, but this was one of the best of times to be alive. So I'm really chuffed. And if my life did end as I leave here, I mean, ideally not falling down the stairs.
Bastard.
No,
Fuck's
not at
sake.
all. But if your life ended tomorrow and you're all right with it, I don't think that's depressing at all. I think it's awesome.
You speak about death quite a lot, though.
Yeah, because I am definitely, maybe I had to reconcile with it a while back. So it is really, British people need to reconcile with death earlier in life because it allows you to live your life completely free.
Of course, as soon as you're born, you start to die. That should be the only motivation you need to get up in the morning.
Well, that's more freaking depressing than anything I ever bloody well said.
I'm a depressing bastard. I'll do motivational quotes and really...
That is really depressing. No, not at all. It's just if we reconcile... So we wouldn't have had the need for vaccines and lockdown if people weren't terrified of the idea of death. This idea that you could run and hide from death is what allowed the government to control people. Mm-hmm. If you lose that fear, you're uncontrollable. And that's perfect.
How did you get into comedy? The stand-up side
because
of things?
Clearly...
You're a funny bastard anyway. I used to watch your videos and think it's because it was your deliverance, it's saying something, but because you used to push people's buttons. You actually remind me of my mum. Like, she used to push the buttons that says so calm.
Yes.
And you can feel the rage in people. Do you feel as if, okay, I've won?
Yeah.
Do you feel I've won?
Yeah.
They've gone. As soon as you give that energy, you're gone. You've won whatever it is you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because you've done it so calm and collective. People just do. I watched a few of your interviews on the train coming down. I thought, you fucking bastard! Like, because you'll say things so not even annoying, but just so sharp.
And it's done really calmly and really dry, but also as if I'm your friend, and I just
patronising,
you're a fat munter, and you're absolutely shit at what you do, and then you just slight pause with middle distance, and then you fucked them.
Yeah.
So I know I can. I always thought I was funny. My husband's like, you're not fucking funny. And then I've been learning how to try and deliver more funny, and it's working out all right. And because life's so bloody ridiculous, it's pretty easy to be funny, right?
Yeah.
You got dickheads running around with masks on their own in a car. It's pretty easy to be funny.
So you see a change now. You're becoming not a different character, but you've seen more love coming your way.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. As cheesy as it is, that it's good to feel important. It's good to feel love. That is, man, and we can hate and we can say shit to cause a bit of controversy, but the bottom line is, when we go home at night, we just want our kids to be happier, man, wife, and just to love us.
And my life is full of that. Everywhere I go, people will chat to me because they either think they know me or do know me or know my face or think I work at the hospital, so they chat. Mm-hmm. And everywhere I go, I have a bit of a laugh with people. And I'm getting to do this amazing thing of being on the road doing stand-up with brilliant audiences that I love. Stay behind till the last man standing afterwards. I hug every single person that comes that wants to. No, I don't force myself on them.
That's an extra 10 quid you get a blowjob.
It's very exciting. And that's just me. No, and I have definitely lived this life, and I've definitely been through it, but I'm definitely on the easy bit now. I'm on a really good thing.
Where can people get your tickets, Katie? Where can their website?
Yeah, Mark built it, so it's Katie's Arms, because I have arm muscles. People have made a thing about my arms, so it's like a pub. Katie's Arms, Katie, Katies, Arms, ARMS, katiesarms.com.
Mm-hmm. And where's the tour, UK tour?
Well, there were 30 venues. We're down to like 8 because of weirdos trying to cancel everything. And we're sold out in Bristol and Bournemouth and Stamford, but there's still tickets in Stafford, Purfleet. We're coming to Scotland in October, Blackburn. There's a few tickets left. So please do go. And I say this not for myself. And I say this not because I want to sell tickets. I say it because I want people in the room. Because if you look around the room, 13th of May in Blackpool, 1,000 people with you who just want the very best for you and want you to be okay and to think whatever you want, and they'll buy you a drink probably half time. That's all I'm about right now.
And you've still got your YouTube, you've still got your Instagram.
YouTube's still there, Instagram's still there. And
what's happening with Twitter? Because everybody's back on that.
Yeah, I can't be. I'm banned at a different level.
Are you?
Yeah, so it's Metropolitan Police and Europol. So they do some sort of terrorist level bans. I'm that.
What's your biggest regret, Katie?
And I'm on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok. It's just some sweet person who takes all my content and puts it over there, which I love.
TikTok's massive.
Well, good. Thank you to the person who's doing that for me.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. My biggest regret, shit me. Shit, I don't know, because everybody has something. I suppose that. It's so hard to say. I don't regret really freaking anything. I certainly don't regret anything I've said. I think I could have been a bit nicer to lovely Mark sometimes. No, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
When are you at your happiest?
With out running with my dogs at 6 a.m. when it's just getting light and then the sun comes up, or sat in the blazing sunshine, or drinking wine. Yeah, I'm just, you know, in my little scruffs, running around my garden with the dogs. Mm-hmm. Perfect, little quiet, sitting on my own in the sunshine, eating steak and chips when I'm tired.
Perfect.
That. I would choose steak and chips in the sun on my own with wine over sex. I totally would.
Unless it's on a field.
Yeah, or unless they're hot.
Yeah, for anybody, I know you've battled with mental health. I know you've struggled with a wee bit of depression, especially everything you've went through. For anybody that's watching struggling, Katie, what advice would you have for them?
There's times where you don't even have to acknowledge that you're really, really, really on the edge of things. You can just accept that your only job is to breathe in and out. Like, get everything, write it all down, or draw a picture of it and push it away from you. Your only job is to breathe in and out, and then hold on to just anything, because it will pass. And it might not be tomorrow that you feel better, or the day after, but it will pass. This too shall pass. Just hold on and imagine people like me around the back of you with a rope, and all you have to do is hold on. That's the immediate action that you have to take. And it's really important, because it saved me more times than I know. Good things will come.
Yeah, proud of you. First of all, like, everything you've came through and still fighting, that takes massive courage. Proud of you. New career doing the stand-up, like, again, massive courage to do it. Anybody I know that does comedy is fucked in the head, though. Like, I tried it as well back in the day, believe it or not, I'm a funny bastard. But every comedian I know are fucking nuts.
There we are.
They're
all
nuts.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was trying to change my life at that time, and I thought, this is going to make me worse. But Katie, listen, absolutely loved your story.
Aww.
Amazing what you're doing. Fucking proud of you for keep going. Would you like to finish up on anything?
Oh, bless you. Well, I not to be maternal in any way, because I don't want to give my age, but I think what you're doing really, really matters. I think defending your turf and keeping your platform really, really matters. And I think your supporters, my request to them politely would be if they could just let one person know what you're trying to do, because it is very noisy out there. There's lots of voices all the time, but the more we consolidate behind certain sorts of people, the better. So if everyone can just let one person know to follow you, that would be really brilliant. And always know that if the shit ever does hit the fan and you do have to do the lonely walk to prison or whatever, I will be right there at your side. So keep doing what you do, because it does really matter.
Appreciate that, Katie. Listen, all the best for the future. Look forward to watching the rest of your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.